In episode 4, because Will knows that the Demogorgon is coming for them, he tries to get everybody out of the barn ASAP. There's just one little problem, though. Derek woke up. He wasn't supposed to, but he's scared. He thinks he was kidnapped. And they try to explain to him that there are monsters coming. And to their surprise, he knows all about the monsters because he's very familiar with Mr. Whatsit. Just like with Holly, Mr. Whatsit visited Derek as well. But Derek certainly doesn't believe these people. I mean, they just kidnapped him. So as he's hiding and they're trying to convince him, Derek, you're literally signing your death certificate. We got to get out of here. The Demogorgon shows up. When it does, though, Will is able to go into the Demogorgon's body. It's like he talked about before. He's able to see exactly what the Demogorgon is seeing. It's like he's connected to it. So he can see his mother standing in front of this Demogorgon with an axe trying to shield it from going after any of the kids. And the Demogorgon starts backing up because Joyce is very formidable with that axe. And the Demogorgon backs up so much that it ends up getting run over by Steve, Dustin, Nancy, and Jonathan, who had just shown backup. It injures the Demogorgon so much, the Demogorgon goes back into the Upside Down, but it also leaves the portal open. And Steve decides, you know what? I bet you I can drive through that thing and follow it that way. So against the better judgment of Dustin and Jonathan, he decides to go for it, driving his car as fast as possible and seeing if he can drive through that portal to the Upside Down, and sure enough, he can. Because of what they just went through, though, everybody is a little on edge, everybody's arguing in the car, they can't really see very well, and then they crash the vehicle into a wall. It's actually the same wall that Hopper and Eleven came across, the one that they couldn't get through. Although, since they're currently in the Upside Down, they should be able to get a hold of Hopper via the radio, and Dustin ends up radioing to him, and sure enough, Hopper answers. At that point, Hopper and Eleven had made their way to the outskirts of the military base in the Upside Down. They just were trying to figure out a way to get inside. Eleven wanting to jump using the lightning from the Upside Down as coverage, and Hopper being a little suspicious about that. But they table the conversation when they hear Dustin on the radio, and he explains, yeah, we hit a wall. We're over near the cemetery. And Hopper tells him, yeah, actually, we hit the same wall, but we're like 2 miles in a different direction. Nancy realizes that Hopper and Eleven are on the opposite side of town. And that's when Hopper says, yeah, we don't know what that wall is, but we think that Holly's behind it. We're working on a solution right now to it, and Nancy gets really upset and says, no, what kind of solution? But Hopper overhears helicopters and tells them we really should stop talking on the radio, and he shuts it off, so Nancy gets no solution whatsoever. A very frustrated Nancy and her group are sitting around the cemetery deciding what to do, and that's when Dustin realizes that via geometry, he's been able to figure out that that wall is a circle, circling all of Hawkins in the Upside Down. But not just that, at the center of that circle is the lab where all of this started. I mean, what are the coincidences of that? So maybe if they head to the lab, they'll be able to end this thing, you would think. So they're planning on heading to the lab, whereas you've got Hopper and Eleven trying to figure out a way in, and Hopper finally gives in. He's going to allow Eleven to go this on her own and try to use her skills that he's been training her for. And she's able to. She jumps over the fence, she even kills a guy, and she lets Hopper through the front door. Now it's just a matter of finding that door. And at first, they go to a scientist who claims that he knows nothing about the door, he doesn't know how to open it, he can't access it. And that's fine. Hopper just knocks him out, and he figures that Eleven will use her powers to access the door. But as she's doing it, all of a sudden alarms start going off. And those sonic frequencies that throw her off, her quote-unquote kryptonite, well, that's what's being played. And it's crushing her. I mean, she's completely debilitated. Hopper ends up dragging her into a separate room just to keep her safe, he hopes, while the sound continues to go, and that's when Dr. K and other military members come in. Now, Hopper tries his best to fight them off, and he is very successful with this, but he also gets wrapped up by an arm from one of the monsters from the Upside Down, so he can't move. And as for Eleven, she was found by Dr. K. Dr. K starts telling Eleven who she is, how long she's been searching her, but Eleven, through pain, mind you, says, I know who you are, I know who you've taken, and I know that you and your men are going to die. With Eleven, however, pretty much immobilized, Dr. K goes to check on our other men, and that's when she finds all of them dead, but Hopper is clearly tied up by this monster, so she starts interrogating him. Hopper, though, isn't giving her any information whatsoever. And that's when 11 crawls out from the room that she was hiding in and tries to help out Hopper, but she's too weak at this point. Dr. K starts kind of mocking Jane and pointing out that she knows Jane isn't strong enough to actually do anything, but what she wasn't banking on is Hopper being able to free himself, which he is able to do. And he starts taking it to Dr. K. He has her dead to rights, and she looks at him and says, "It's too late. The cavalry is on its way." But he knocks her out anyway. He, though, realizes that Jane is in a tough predicament. He's got to get her out of there. So he gives her direct orders to go and find Dustin and his group. But she doesn't want to leave Hopper alone to deal with Vecna, though Hopper had a little bit of a backup plan. 11 notices that he is strapped up with dynamite, and he assures her, "Look, this is just a failsafe. If I'm going down, he's going down with me." But she's scared for him, and he's going to do it anyway. The last thing he says to her is, "I just want to let you know how proud I am of you," and then he leaves. He locks the door. She tries to go after him, but once again, she's in a really weak state, and she can't. Finally, though, after a little bit, that sonic frequency stops. It seems like it just crapped out. And that's when the door opens up, and it's Hopper. He's back. He was able to shut it off. But not only was he able to shut it off, he was also able to open that door. The door where Dr. K was clearly hiding something. They thought it was Vecna. It's not. It's number 8. 11's quote-unquote sister. Now, maybe 8 knows where they can find Holly, who has been able to find Max. She vaguely recognizes Max, and it takes a little bit, but Max admits that she's the one who wrote that letter, not Henry, and Henry is bad. Again, it takes a little bit to convince Holly of this, but Max is able to, and she starts telling Holly all about where she is and how long she's been there. Max tells Holly that they are in Henry's memories. She was put there when she went into the coma, and she's been trying to find her way out this entire time. For her, it started from a memory in the 1950s, and then it just kept going. And at one point, she thought that she had found a way out. She heard Kate Bush. The portal had opened up. She was witnessing herself in the coma in the hospital with Lucas, and she thought, finally, I can get out of here, but she couldn't. Because once the tape stopped, the portal immediately shut down, and she was stuck there. But not only that, Henry had noticed, and he was pissed. He chased her around and chased her all the way to that wall, and she tells Holly, "There's something about this wall that he doesn't like because he wouldn't follow me in. But when I looked at his face, he was clearly scared." But Max has been there ever since, trying to find a way out, and now she feels like Holly could help with that. Max tells her that she has a plan, and they're not going to have a lot of time to do it, but Henry's going to return to the house soon, and Holly needs to be there. And not only does Holly need to be there, but Henry has to have no clue that she ever left. Now, Holly's terrified, and Max realizes this, but says, "This is the only way, so you have to do it." Now, back in the real world, though, they have another issue. Kids are being taken. Not by monsters this time, not by Henry, but by the military. Because Dr. K realized that 11 was associated with the missing kids. She didn't realize anything had to do with Henry. She really thought that this was just 11 kidnapping children, so she figured she would use the kids as bait. She rounded up all the kids and took them to the military quarantine zone that is strictly non-access, hoping to God that would lure 11 out, and then they would finally be able to find her. But this is causing a problem for Will and his group because they need to save these kids. And Will, when he tapped in the Demigorgon, got a vision of everything. He draws this symbol on the barn wall, and he says, "I don't know what it is, but I can feel it's important to him." And then he's able to realize that for whatever reason, Vecna is going after 12 kids. Obviously, one of them was Holly, the other was Derek, so they need to find the others. But that's going to be really difficult under military police. Now, they do have some good news. There's a tunnel that goes directly under the barracks of where they're keeping the kids. But getting to the kids is going to be tough, and Robin comes up with the idea of tunneling under the bathroom. But then you're going to need to sneak the kids out without getting noticed by the military, which is going to be really difficult. And that's when Mike comes up with the plan that they need a mole. They need someone on the inside. They need the one kid they forgot to scrounge up, and that is Derek. So they convince Derek to go over to the quarantine zone. They arm him with a lunchbox that actually has a radio in it where he can communicate with Joyce. And they tell him to find out who the other kids are that know about Mr. Whatsit and tell them to go to the bathroom where Mike and all of them will be waiting. They then called up Murray to retrofit his van so that he can shuttle these kids out of there and get them to safety out of the quarantine zone. Derek does as he's told. He heads over to the quarantine zone. They did forget about him, so they allow him to enter. And he starts trying to figure out which kids knew about Mr. What's-It so he can tell them when exactly they're supposed to head to the bathroom to get to safety. Meanwhile, you've got the other kids, Will, Mike, Lucas, Robin. They head in the tunnels to start digging their way into the bathroom. On the way there, Robin and Will have a little more of a conversation about the sexuality. And Robin doesn't come right out and say that she knows that Will is clearly leaning towards that way, but she kind of gives him an encouraging story about just accepting yourself and being who you are. It's actually a nice moment. But then they actually get to the bathroom. With Derek's help, one by one, they start getting the kids. There's just one slight issue. One of the kids grabbed one of the water pipes, and now you've got water leaking out into the bathroom, and it's only a matter of time before a military member sees it, so they have to act even quicker than they normally were expecting. With all that water, though, one of the kids just gets freaked out. They go and they tell the officer about it, and now Derek's like, oh crap, we really got to go. So he tells all the kids, run, go, go, go. And they all run to the bathroom and try to get to safety, while the military tries to keep them in the barracks. Now, some of the kids were able to get to Murray and get to safety, but everybody's kind of rounded up, including Joyce, by the way. They're caught by the military. They're brought to the one officer, and she tries to explain to them why they were doing what they were doing, but the military's like, yeah, that we know the kids are in danger. That's why we brought them here. Of course, the military are thinking that they're in danger from 11, and Joyce knowing, no, they're in danger from legitimate monsters. And that's when everything changes. Will starts getting the feeling on his neck, the hair starts raising up, and everyone's attacked by demigorgons. Now, the military tries to fight it off as best they can, but there's only so much they can do against these beings. They do, however, do a pretty good job, but they're no match for Vecna, who shows up and destroys everybody. And Vecna didn't just open up a portal for himself, he's opening up a portal for other demigorgon in other areas. So Murray's convoy is attacked. Lucas in the tunnel, he's also attacked. And while Joyce tries to shield her son from getting attacked by Vecna, he just throws her to the side and he picks up Will. Vecna then controls Will in the air, bringing him towards him and says, "Can you see the children? You know why I chose them to reshape the world, right? It's because they are weak in body and mind, easily broken." And as this is happening, Will can see it. He can see the children getting sucked into the Upside Down. He then goes on to tell Will that Will was his first, and he broke so easily. He then says, some minds don't belong in this world. They belong in my world. He then drops Will and walks back into the Upside Down, figuring that demigorgons will take care of the rest. Because demigorgons are all over Robin, they're all over Mike, and they're all over Lucas. I mean, they're jumping. They're ready to go after them. But Will had remembered something that Mike actually told him. It was the fact that he was like Vecna, but like in a good way. Like maybe he can be the puppet master like Vecna is the puppet master. So after hearing that and then remembering what Robin said about just being true to yourself, he decides to tap into the hive like never before, and he is able to become just like Vecna, controlling the demigorgons, so much so that he causes all three of them, keep in mind, they are in different places, but he causes all three to stop in midair, and then he controls them to just start snapping limbs, killing them all, and saving his friends. This is a new Will, a Will that is ready to take control of it all. And that is the end of part 1 of Stranger Things last season. Thanks so much for getting the recap. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. Hit thumbs up if you liked it. Smash that thumbs down button if you thought this sucked. Let me know what you thought of part 1 and your theories of part 2, which is coming out on Christmas Day. I have merch. I have like t-shirts and mugs. You can go buy that. You can become a member. That'd be cool. I have a Patreon. There's a lot of ways to support the channel, but ultimately subscribing is cool. If you don't, whatever, I'll never know. But I'll be back here for part 2.